There is always some kid who may be seeing me for the first or last time. I owe him my best. Joe DiMaggio, center fielder, New York Yankees. I don't know you no more, said Klebo. He spit into the dirt. Yes, you do, said House. He looked Klebo square in the face. I'm someone who keeps his word. Klebo sat down with a thump. Finesse recovered quickly. She lifted her veil, dabbed at her eyes, and cleared her throat. That's an inspiring speech, House Jackson, she said. I'm sure that if we could play a real baseball game, we would. Well, I'm playing ball, announced Ruby, rising to her feet. She looked at House with admiration. A little breeze blew through the crowd. Me too, said every other kid in the crowd as everyone stood up and faced Finesse. Melba Jane looked horrified and nauseous. House blinked at the mutiny happening in front of his eyes. What about our plans from this morning? Finesse asked. What about the sawmill samba we worked on? What about the Pine Lake prance and the Silvery Moon skit? But kids were solidly behind House. Klebo had lost, so had Finesse. Defeat crossed her face. And when it did, House saw a glimmer of something sadder than sad underneath it. But Finesse pulled herself together. She inhaled deeply and arched an eyebrow. Mia May? Must we vote, then? Wait, said House. Mamas or no mamas, Finesse was about to vote herself out of a job, but Finesse would not wait. Must we vote on the ball game, baseball outdoors on a buggy empty lot, or the lovely pageant indoors on the bright new stage? I got an idea, said House, but Finesse had her own ideas. Don Quixote directed her Sancho Panza to take the vote. How many for the pageant? Asked Melba, pencil poised over the clipboard. Not a hand was raised. Listen, said House, but Finesse would not listen. Melba took a long breath and asked the defining question. How many for the game? Every hand shot into the air. Very well, Finesse said. Her lips trembled. Très bien. I know when I've been defeated. She held up the list that House had given her. We have no budget for a ball game. We do not need this list. Theatrically, Finesse tore House's list in half and let the pieces flutter to the ground around her. House took off his cap, smoothed back his hair, and shoved the cap back on his head. His forehead glistened with sweat. Mia May, said Finesse, you could have had my expertise. You should have seen my contributions to theater at the Lanyard School last year. Oh, what a production we could have had. But I will not be a party to this mockery, or of our wonderful American pageant. If you all choose a baseball game as your pageant, so be it. It will not include moi. And so, Mia May, I tender my adieu. Finesse snatched off her feathered hat and veil. Her eyes were volcanic. She slapped her headgear at Melba, who bobbed the feathers and the veil along with her clipboard. Here are my last words, Mia May, spit Finesse. I quit. Je quitte. She stamped away just as House grabbed her arm. Wait! She flung his arm away from her. Who do you think you are, House Jackson? And why do you need to torture me? What are you talking about? I know you hate me. I do not. Yes, you do. Say it. Say what? That you broke my elbow? Okay, you broke my elbow. In 2 places. Bad. Finesse wailed as if she were in a confessional. I know I broke your arm. I know you couldn't play ball. I know you were upset. Upset doesn't begin to cover it. And now you've turned everyone against me. You've done that on yourself, with your crazy ways, Francis. You dress like a Goonie bird, and you act like a nut. He shocked his own self. He was a boy of few words, who had become a fountain of veracity. Nobody wants to be in your stupid pageant. It's a big joke. We're only here because we have to be. Why don't you go back to Jackson and your prestigious Lanyard School and leave us alone? Melba wore a look of shock on her face. Every single kid was transfixed. Finesse's mascara began to streak down her face along with her tears. I agree that Mr. Norwood Boyd was a great man, she said. She wiped her mascara to either side of her cheeks with her fingers. And you're not. You don't have the faintest idea about what really matters. She addressed the rest of the crowd. None of you do. She stalked across the empty field toward Main Street. Melba raced after her, feathers bouncing against the dirt and stirring up dust.